So far what we have done is created a basic HTML page. Now what we need to do is we need to apply some styles to the HTML page. So if we look into the layout that I displayed earlier, the layout that we are trying to create, there are some styles applied to this layout page. If you see the background color blue, that's a style. If we hover the mouse over the nav menus, we can see the changing colors. That's also a style. So what we are going to do now is apply a style to the HTML page that we have created. So for that, what we are going to do is we are going to create a folder and name it as style. And in this style folder, I'm going to create a file called default.css. So default.css, the CSS extension tells it's a style sheet file. Now what we do is first we have to link this style sheet to the HTML page. Now how do we link it? We link it using the link tag. So link, and then we have a ref attribute, href attributes, sorry. Now here, if we press Control space, it's going to show the folders in the workspace project. Now we can see the style folder, so we select that, and inside the style folder we see the default.css. Now this is our style sheet file, so we just add a reference to the style sheet file in the link tab. The next thing is we have to define the type, and we are going to say text/css, which says it is a CSS file. And then we have another attribute called rel. This is an important attribute to remember. Now this attribute tells how this link is related to the HTML page. So we are going to add here style sheet, which means this reference that we have added is a style sheet reference to this HTML page. Now what we are going to do is we are going to close the tag. Now going back to the default.css page, we haven't defined any style here. So if we look into our page here, it is still the white background. There are no styles applied because we have added a link to the style sheet page to the HTML layout.html, but we haven't defined any style yet. Now for what I will do is I will go to the layout page that I have already created and copy some styles from there into the my app project. So I put it over here. Now let's see what happens. You can see the background of the my app is changed to blue, and that's because we have defined here the body tag. So basically the HTML page that we have created, and the body we have defined the background as blue, and that's why we can see the background as blue. And if you also notice, the font size has become small, and that's because we have defined the font size as 11. Let's try to change this to 17 and let's see what happens. Now if you see, the hello world has become big over here. So now let's change it back to 11. So basically this is how we can define styles, and whatever styles we define over here will be applied to the layout.html page. Also, you should notice that in the when I define the style sheet, when I define the styles are defined for the body and HTML attributes. So if you go to the layout.html page, now we see the HTML tag here, we see the body tag. So we have defined the style for the body tag and the HTML tag, and that's why we have reference to body and HTML here. What this means is the style that we have defined here is going to be applied on anything that is inside this body tag and anything inside this HTML tag. Okay. Now, what are the other elements that we need? So if you go to our layout mockup again, we can see some images. So if you see this save button, it's actually an image. So if I right click, you can see here save image as. Similarly, this button, the chart button over here, all these are images. Similarly, if you go to the nav menu, the folder image is an image over here. So what this means is the next thing we need to add in our app is some images. So what I will do is I will go to the My App project and I will create a new folder called img, which means images. And then I need to add the images inside this. What I will do is, again, I will copy the images that I already have to this project. So copy, and then I'm going back to the My App, and then I'm going to see if it allows me to paste the, yep, so I can see the image. So what I will do is I will delete this and rename this to images, lowercase. And now I have all the images that I need. So if we just go to the image, there's a star icon. Yeah, so if you see all the images that we have that we are going to use in the application, those images I have copied them now. So now, before starting to create the layout of the HTML page, let's get a little bit more understanding of the CSS style sheet. So far, what I have shown you is we defined some styles for body and HTML attributes. So this is called element selector, right? So what that means is whenever we are defining anything under body or HTML attribute, the styles that we have defined is going to apply. Now let's take another example. So what I have done here is I have defined hello world. I have written hello world directly inside the body tag. Now if we go to the browser and see how it looks like this. Now if you compare with how we have in the actual layout that we are trying to create, there is a little bit of padding from the top. If you see here, there's a padding from the top and padding from the left as well. And the font, of course, is bigger in size here. Now if you go to the My App, which we are building, now there's no padding from the top, there's no padding from the left, and the font size is also smaller. So what we will do, one way to do that is, let me create a div tag and I can write hello world inside the div tag. Let's see what happens. So nothing changes, still we have hello world without any padding. Now to add the padding, what I can do is I can define some inline styling. So how do I add an inline styling? I can add the attribute style, and then I will put padding, and I will put first is left, so I put first is top, sorry, so I put padding 15px, which is the top is 15px and left is 5px. So let's see what happens now. So if we go, now we can see a padding of 15px from the top and a padding of 5px from the left. Now let's say I want to add another text below this one. So let's add another div tag. So I can copy paste this one. Now let's say we do not have the style added for this div, and let's see what happens. So if you notice now, the first hello world, because we have added style, we can see the padding. The second hello world, because we haven't added any style, again the padding is missing. So one way to address this is we add the style back, and now if you go back, you can see padding is there. But the problem with this is we are duplicating this for all the divs, right? Now, how do we solve this? So for this, what we can do is we can go to our style sheet page, and then one option we have is we can define a style for div. Now, when we define a style for div, we can define padding and 15px, 5px, and let's do this. Now we go back to our layout.html and we remove this style from here. Now let's see what happens. So if you see, the style is still applied. That means, the padding that we have defined is still there. So this is again we are using the element selector. That means any div we create is going to have this padding. Now this is one way of defining the style, but what if we do not want padding for this second div? We want padding only for this first div. Now just because we have defined a style for the element selector div, we don't have any option, because at the moment we define any div in this HTML page, they are going to inherit the style. So to solve this problem, what we can do is, instead of defining a style for element selector, we can define a style by, we can give a name to the style. So let's say dot, and we will put title, or let's put header, right? So now what we are defining is, we are not defining a style for an element, rather we are defining a selector and defining a style called header. Now what we do is we go back to layout.html, and then just because we want this padding to be applied only for the first div, we use a class attribute, and here we specify the style that we have defined here, header, right? So now let's see what happens. So if we go back to our HTML page, now we can see the style is applied only to the first div, not to the second div, right? So let's say if we add the style to this as well, header, now we can see the style is applied to both. So this, if we do not choose the element selector, rather we use just a selector, we get the flexibility of choosing which element we want to apply the style on, right? So I hope this makes sense. So this is important to understand, because the entire layout that we are going to create, CSS is going to play a critical role. So there are lots of other way of creating styles, but the two common ones are the element selector and then a name selector, and that's what we have seen as of now.